naming and shaming drug dealers in Eldorado Park, a bold new strategy that is being spearheaded by Deteriorate James, the mother of an addict whose letter to Jacob Zuma, the state president, in 2013 prompted strong police intervention to act against the growing pandemic of drugs and lolly lounges in this community. Although the fight against drugs and lolly lounges continues, this courageous step by a warrior woman serves to inspire other women across the country to become agents of change in their respective communities.
We go to those places, and our first approach is a very subtle approach, telling community members, places, lolly lounges that are selling, look, we are aware of the activities that's happening at this residence, stop, and abide by the law. Let's clean up our community, let's help our kids get better and get off drugs. But the second approach is not that subtle.
What I wanted to say to other women is that this is not something you can do on your own. This is a warfare. It is a warfare that it's going to make you or it's going to break you.
Tonight's special assignment profiles warrior women who fight on the front line in a war to save their families and their communities from the clutches of relentless drug dealers and substance abuse. Walking into the heart of darkness.
I'm sure you took a dream, you took a vision, you also want to become something. So we're not coming here to fight. We're coming here to say that we are aware of the activities that's happening here.
This is one of the many lolly lounges in Eldorado Park, Unit 3. And Deteriorate James and her colleague Alistair Fredericks of the Eldorado Park Local Drug Action Committee are in the process of naming and shaming these two alleged drug peddlers following a tip-off by the community.
And now the people can't sleep at night here. So two people are keeping a block hostage. Two people. It's today. That's police hier so wat dan hier, that's a police station. That's a police station daar. That's a police station, you can was by die polisiestasie rapporteer.
This unorthodox action of naming and shaming alleged drug dealers and owners of lolly lounges in the community of Eldorado Park has been proving to be highly effective and is taking the fight against drug trafficking to a radical new level.
Seks met 'n kind onder 18 is onwettig, is bewus net. 'n statutory rape. Nee. Dit 'n free will. Tot met jou free will en al. Jy gaan free will sit toe free will. Jy bly jou free will. Wat 'n free will? You must understand the law in its context. Not like you want it to apply to you. Sex with a minor is a criminal offense, period. And you admit to doing it continually.
While Alistair continues to serve a strong warning to these alleged dealers who have sex with young girls in exchange for drugs, Deteriorate James and the rest of the team is in search of 5 girls who were removed from the exact same lolly lounge a few nights earlier. This girl decides to come clean and help her to find the other 4 who were removed from the lolly lounge by the police during a joint operation. These raids on drug dens in Eldorado Park have become a weekly occurrence as the local drug action committee steps up its plan of supply reduction in a move to eradicate the problem of drug trafficking in Eldorado Park.
We want to send a strong message to parents of those girls who's not taking responsibility for the whereabouts of their children. So we came out here today, we got another lead saying that the girls are back here in the lolly lounge, and we came back here to show them that we're not just doing these operations once off, we're going to follow it through.
Over the past 2 months, these weekly raids have seen the arrests of several drug dealers and the rescue of more than 10 underage girls out of the lolly lounges. Deteriorate attributes the recent success of these operations by the local Drug Action Committee and the police to be a direct result of strong community participation and anonymous tip-offs. While we are with Deteriorate, another anonymous tip-off comes through. This time it's from an elderly woman who alleges that she's being victimized by a son who is selling drugs from their shack in Extension 8.
They are threatening her. It's an old woman of 80 years. She can't fight them. and even their people are scared. Please look into the matter and please let me know if there's something you can do to help. Will be appreciated. We're just going to go inside and find out who is actually selling in this yard here and speak to the 80-year-old and just to get the exact story. Are they here now? Did he run away?
As we follow Deroline into the yard of an alleged drug dealer, we can't help wonder if she ever feels fear in these situations.
No, I don't get scared. I'm not sure why, but I think my personal journey with this does not allow. I'm just not scared of going. I just want to really fix and really help as many children as possible.
When the police search the shack of this man, they find him in possession of dacha, which gives them the necessary grounds they need to arrest him, as he is allegedly been terrorizing his 80-year-old mother and other tenants in the yard. It is a small victory, but a victory nonetheless for Deroline and her team, who have committed to a zero-tolerance approach to any form of drug dealing in their community. 2 years after the presidential visit to Eldorado Park, the Department of Social Development remains involved and has been working closely with women in this community. They are here today to investigate the matter of the 5 girls recently found in a lolly lounge in Extension 3. Following the successes of these programs of action by the local Drug Action Committee, which are in line with the National Drug Master Plan, government plans to roll out the Eldorado Park anti-drug model to other areas in the country.
I want to say to women out there, take charge. It might seem difficult, but something possible can always be done. Start somewhere as a collective. This will immerse you into the task at hand, and momentum will build up. And I can assure you, once it immerses you into that task, there is nothing that is going to hold you back. You will continue to work, you will roll out, you will reach out to other areas. Very soon we will be in Esteras. And I'm happy that we are replicating this model, and I'm hoping that we will move gradually to other communities.
One of the recent actions taken by the department has been the setting up of a shelter for girls and children that are rescued from the lolly lounges by the local Drug Action Committee during these raids, as well as a detox center at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital. Liesel Valu heads up this shelter and takes care of these children and young girls.
In Eldorado Park, who is 10 years old. And has never been in school. Has never been, not even to grade 1. Now, I mean, that's not on. You know, these are the aftermaths that we sit with. Okay? The safe house becomes a haven to these children, to such kids. And although I will not use their identities, I think my duty is to protect them at all times and have their best interest at heart. The safe house came as a haven after the presidential visit. Social development came to the party and said, look, what are the needs in your community? Prior to the presidential visit, we've been taking girls out of lolly lounges and did not know what to do with them. Because it would be 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and we did not know where would we place these kids.
Deroline believes, however, that even more aggressive action is needed to counter the scourge of substance abuse and has recently been in the process of setting up a new wellness and counselling centre for youth in this area.
For the longest time ever, I was working from home. People would then come into my personal space and, you know, my family would say, my daughter would say to me, Mommy, everyone comes here, we have no privacy, you know, I'm always counseling people in the lounge or having to go out and meet them at their houses, and sometimes it would get quite dangerous because you don't know what environment you're going into. So that has been for the last 2 years, and then the one day I was called in by our pastor, Pastor Carl Hendricks, the pastor of Crystal Church, and he then said to me,
I see what you're doing. We do have a building here. Why don't you move in and make use of this building? And I was like, wow, God has answered my prayers.
The new drop-in centre that will serve as a safe haven for youth to come to once they have been detoxed or come out of rehab is equipped with donations from the community. During this voluntary program, which will be absolutely free, addicts coming off the street will be taught the necessary life skills in order to be reintroduced into society. Deteriorate, who was once a corporate executive, has dedicated her life to being a recovery coach. Her bold initiatives in writing a letter to the state president about the current drug pandemic, as well as subsequently coordinating a national campaign aimed at raising awareness around the issue of drug addiction called Josie Goes Yellow, has set in motion a wave of activism that has reached the community of Easterus in Pretoria. Desiree Fisher has drawn inspiration from the actions of Deteriorate James.
So you need to keep them safe. I mean, I always say about the safety net. Keep them safe, keep them, because they know, people in their own area.
Similar to Deteriorate, she has a son who is a drug addict, and helping him in his journey into recovery has driven her to take up the fight against drug trafficking in her community.
I didn't know immediately. By the time I woke up and realized it was, it was already at a chronic stage. Because drugs today is not like Dacha those years where you could actually smell someone that is using drugs, or you would see his eyes is red. They look normal, And by the time you wake up, then you find, the child is deep into drugs. And then it becomes a battle. It becomes a personal battle. For me, it became more than that, because I knew that if I had to save my child, I had to save a whole community. My son loves he loves people, he's a people's person. And so I was never going to get him away from the drugs if I didn't help him and his friends.
Desiree's action in response to her son's addiction has been to rally and mobilize the women in areas like Nantes in Easterus, hardest hit by the current drug pandemic. United in a common cause together, these mothers of addicts are discovering that enough is enough.
Een gemors. Want dat is elke dag. Uit die werkheid, een fix. Als je daar vanaf komt, is bekleierij in die huizen. Ons het nooit peace in die huizen niet. Zo drugs bij ons in land is een groot probleem.
We also need to sit and talk to each other. We need to help each other out of this hell that we are going through as parents with the drugs issue.
The concerned Parents Against Drugs in Easterus is being led by Desiree and has become a legitimate voice on the problem to the extent that the presidency visited the area, and according to social development, the Eldorado Park model will be rolled out here along with the necessary support needed.
When we started, there was about 1,000 children on drugs. I mean, that was 20 years ago, and we've seen how it has grown. But the other thing that we've also seen is that how the syndicates grew. From local based, they actually grew into organized units where you don't see children going to a drug house anymore. It's more sophisticated. Like drugs are being delivered now. You order it via telephone. So it's a very sophisticated operation now.
Dealing with the scourge of drugs in Easterus is extremely complex, as is the nature of organized crime. It is compounded by the lack of treatment centers for drug abuse in this community. The parks here are where drugs are being sold to children, as is evident in the high number of empty drug sachets found on the streets. Yet this warrior woman is prepared to take the fight against drugs to the very doorsteps of the drug dealers, if that is what it takes.
They had to make money irrespective of who they were going to destroy in the process. So for me it was, I didn't care about them. I still don't care about them. If I know they sell drugs, I will take to the police station. I'm only God-fearing. I'm not going to fear humans that has no consideration for other humans at all. I have no respect for them. No, I'm definitely a warrior. I'm a warrior for God, But what I wanted to say to other women is that this is not something you can do on your own. This is a warfare. It is a warfare that it's going to make you or it's going to break you. But it can also take you closer to God, and I have seen how God has turned around my situation.
Desiree's quest is to see government build a multi-purpose centre in a community that can provide immediate counselling support and treatment for addicts and the families of addicts free of charge.
But it's more a center where if you have a problem, you will find experienced people like ourselves that has been through this, compassionate people, people that will know that you need help today and not tomorrow when someone is in the office, people that will that will understand that you need to be hugged, people that will understand that you need a cup of coffee, people that need to understand that yes, we will go with you and we will find your child that is missing. So we don't want government workers to come and sit in an office and open up a file and tell us 2 years later that, you know, that they're still working on the file or they're still trying to find the space at some rehab center. Because the quicker we help people, the quicker we can solve the problem. And if only we knew what we know today, and if we had a multi-purpose center like 10 years ago, we would have had less children on drugs, we would have had less families in distress.
Je kunt uit op correctieve straffen. Hij komt net weer terug.
From the age of 18, Pedro Lagrange was a heroin addict who was in and out of recovery. He was a talented metal artisan, and his sister Cindy did everything in her power to help him and his older brother, who is still an addict, deal with their addiction. In 2009, despite the family's best efforts, Cindy lost her youngest brother Pedro.
I've lived most of my life with addiction in my household. I have gone through a process with 2 heroin addicts, both my brothers, and it's been an incredibly difficult journey. I have been in denial, I've been angry, I've done the whole grieving process, tried all the conventional methods, the rehabilitation centres, the places of safety, the religious institutes, the NA, the AA, you know, anything that has been offered. And the system, I've tried the system too, you know, just in terms of getting assistance when the money ran out. And I got to a point eventually where I realised that you know, all the fighting and screaming and going crazy really wasn't helping, and I needed to understand what I was dealing with.
As an experienced researcher and freelance writer, Cindy used her skills to gain more knowledge about the illness of addiction. What started out as a mechanism of coming to terms with her brother's death has now led her to a place where she realizes the need to educate people and change public perception. She and her late brother's girlfriend Simone decided to use their grief as a means to raise awareness.
We really wanted to take the suffering and the experiences that we learned through living with addicts and being loved ones and family members of addicts. We wanted to put that information that would reach people to be heard, because the shouting and the screaming and the kicking the doors down, dragging people out of crack dens, it wasn't working. No one was listening. We wanted to become a preventative measure. We want to get it into schools to stop this from getting worse. It's gotten progressively worse over the last 10 years. South Africa's substance abuse rate is twice that of the world's average. Why are we losing this battle? Because we're not approaching the problem the correct way.
Cindy and Simone have chosen a less radical but highly effective approach to addressing the problem of addiction in the community and the perception of the illness in the country as a whole. Addict Magazine, a non-profit publication, is privately funded by one of their family members. It seeks to educate families about what options are available to deal with loved ones in active addiction and what psychological and medical resources are available to overcome it.
I'm all for Radical. I think Radical is awesome. I've done it. I've been there. I've been into the dens. Not necessarily to pull other people out, more family members. And we'd go into Hillbrow at 12 o'clock at night and pull the boys out of dens. And I've seen the devastation that it causes. So I'm really all for the Radical. But I've realised that fighting has been largely something I've been doing for a very long time. Fighting the addiction, fighting the addict, fighting in my family. Just everything has been a fight. And I got to a point where I'm tired of fighting, and education works.
As a business partner and friend, Simone draws inspiration from Cindy's strength and still marvels at how this brave woman has turned around her grief into helping others with similar pain.
From the day I met her, I didn't know how she had survived. I've done 6 years, she's done 10 times more of that, and she grew up with this. She inspired me because she loves unconditionally. She loves her mother unconditionally. She loves her brothers unconditionally. And the heartache, I was there the day that Pedro died. And the heartache in that family tore my heart to pieces, that my strings will forever be wrapped around Cindy. And she's inspired me so much to move forward, to care that much.
We've got to be involved, we've got to be strong, we've got to seek out other women that are going through what we're going through, and we've got to stand together. We've got to stop being afraid. I think when we hide in the shadows, we do a lot of similar things to what drug dealers do. We hide in shadows away from the public eye. And I know I hid for a long time. I'm not hiding anymore. My face is here, and I'm telling you, I'm not afraid anymore. And I hope that women can draw from that strength and say, I'm going to fight, I'm going to surround myself with people who understand what I'm going through. And that is how you get through this. You don't get through this by hiding away and by being alone and ostracizing yourself and isolating your family. You've got to be out there, you've got to talk about it, and that's my only advice, is just be surrounded by people who understand.
The driving passion that ignites all these women is their common fight against drug addiction in their homes, communities, and their country. They have chosen to break the silence of addiction by using every public platform available to them to make themselves heard.
So much for having me. All I can say to our people, our Kofifi listeners out there, is do not give up. I know it seems impossible. It almost seems, a lot of people say that we'll never win this war. But you know what? We've got to keep trying. We've got to keep on pushing and, don't lose hope.
Maybe not big strides as people would want to see something happen overnight. It's going to take a while. But we will get there. We will take back our streets and our children.